Once again, we are back with another college football playoff episode. The episodes keep on flowing. We had a first round episode, we had a quarterfinals episode, and now we have a semifinals episode. We got two amazing games to talk about. We got the Orange Bowl between Notre Dame and Penn State, and then we got the Cotton Bowl between Ohio State and Texas. Some four premier programs in college football. But before we get into that, as always, follow us on social media at Talking Sports PD, on X, on Instagram. I always say TikTok. We haven't posted on TikTok in about 2 years. I actually deleted the app, so don't follow us on TikTok because you won't see anything, but on X or on Instagram and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And as always, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You guys have been doing great. Last episode around 2,500 views. The episode before around 2,500 views. So really appreciate it. And as always, we are sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. It's NFL time. Make sure you guys get on Underdog Fantasy. And Underdog Fantasy has this awesome thing. It's called their Pick'em game, right in time for the college football playoff and right in time for the NFL playoffs. Just pick higher or lower on your favorite or your least favorite player's stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. Underdog keeps it super simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile apps. Pick between 2 and 5 players to fill out your pick'em entry, get every pick right, and take home some cold hard cash. Use the code TSP and get your first deposit doubled up to $100 by Underdog. So make sure you get on Underdog Fantasy, and I actually got through the nice ad read. So business is taken care of. Ryan, you're back again. Third straight episode you're back. College football playoff semifinals. Anything to take away from the quarterfinals that maybe completely change your opinions heading into the semifinals before we actually get into the nitty gritty of these games?
Nothing crazy. I mean, we both went 3-1 straight up picking last week. I think I was 2-2 against the spread. I picked Oregon to win, but if you had told me that Ohio State was going to blow them out, I knew, we both knew that was in the realm of possibility.
Are you done picking against Ohio State? Because you've done it twice.
I've done it twice. I've been burned both times. The biggest surprise, I think, from the weekends would be Texas going double over, almost as near as
100%. Yeah.
No way that happens.
Because we were watching that game. It was 14-0. Was it 14-0 at one point? Whatever it was.
17-3.
And one of us texted each other, that's the game.
Yeah.
And I think collectively, social media-wise, college football landscape-wise, we've seen it kind of a Penn State, Boise State. We saw it a lot in the first round. Thought it was game. And then Texas kind of did their Texas thing of not playing 4 quarters. They don't really like to play a full game. And then credit to Arizona State, Bo Scatterboo just decided to turn into the second coming of Derrick Henry and was unbelievable. And Arizona State got some really good quarterback play. We probably should be talking about Arizona State tonight. Unfortunately for them, they did not cover a 4th and 13 play. I know the targeting was obviously a very bad call, but if I was an Arizona State fan, I would be more mad about that my defense gave up a 4th and 13. That's what I would hang my hat on.
They lost the game themselves. Texas made the play they had to make, but very unfortunate if you're an Arizona State fan. They fought super hard. Yes. They played as well as you could ask that second half, and it just kind of got away from them there.
Penn State took care of business, and then we had the Notre Dame-Georgia game the day after, and that game was interesting. It looked like Notre Dame kind of offensively wasn't great. Georgia offensively weren't great, but Notre Dame made some timely plays, a special teams play to start the second half, a forced fumble that resulted in 7 points. That was basically the game right there, those 2 plays, and Notre Dame's kind of done that all year. 3 phases. They run the ball really well. They play great defense, and they have good special teams. So Notre Dame just kind of outphased almost Georgia, and then Georgia just had chances to score, had chances to get back in the game, but they never did.
Yeah, I mean, that game went about as I thought. Obviously, some tragic circumstances
100%
beforehand, very, very sad. Thoughts and prayers for everyone there. But game itself, we'll get into it. That's just how Notre Dame's been playing all year.
Yeah. Let's get into it. Thursday night. Kind of forgot these games were a Thursday and a Friday before I looked onto my ESPN app and saw that they were Thursday and Friday. Kind of like how they're 2 different days. I do like that.
Yeah, this is new. This is different.
They could have put them on Saturday, but They don't want to compete with the NFL playoffs. And I don't blame them for not wanting to compete with the NFL playoffs because you will get smoked.
Yeah, you just want as many eyeballs as possible.
Look, it's great. We're both huge NFL fans. Most people that watch or listen are both huge NFL fans and college. You got college on Thursday and Friday, and you got the NFL on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and you have college basketball mixed in as well. So if you have plans this weekend, probably want to cancel them because there's a lot of football going on this weekend. So Penn State, Notre Dame. Notre Dame right now, as of Monday, January 6th, so it's going to change probably, potentially. Notre Dame is 1.5 point favorites, so it's really close here. Ryan, first thing that comes to mind, or first thing that you think of when you think of this matchup between Penn State and Notre Dame?
Yeah, so these were both pretty good games. Like the Penn State Boise game was competitive for 3.5 quarters. I'm not trying to come off as like a Penn State hater. I did pick them to cover last week, and they did. I just didn't walk away that impressed with Penn State. I don't think they played nearly up to their potential in that game. The offense left some points on the board. The defense played well, like their defense first team, and they, to their credit, they shut down Ashton Genty to the best one can realistically shut down Ashton Genty. I mean, he still got 100 yards, but they made him work for everything, and that was very impressive. The pass defense wasn't great. They had 2 interceptions at the end, but Maddox Matson was like, he was slinging it a little bit for good 3 quarters then. You had obviously they had like a 40-yard touchdown on just a coverage bust. You can't do that against Notre Dame in this next game, And that's not like, I know Riley Leonard will talk about, he's not Patrick Mahomes slinging the ball around, but he's going to hit the wide open guy. Like, I think me or you could have probably made that throw. I don't know. But Penn State, they did what they had to do. They beat teams who were not as good as them, and that's exactly what they did. They got some help. Boise missed 2 field goals. Boise had a penalty taking away a touchdown on a hands to the face. Like, that's why this game, I don't want to say they dominated the game. Like, they were in control, and at no point were you like, oh, Penn State might lose,
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't play their best game. And I think that's fair to say. And I think they would say that.
Yeah. I don't think Drew Aller was anywhere near where we've seen him before and where he could be.
Yeah.
But they were able to run the ball really well. Like, you and I talked about this off air. Both of these teams are so similar in the sense that they both play great defense. Like, we could just start throwing defensive stats at you, like off the wazoo, and just bore you. But they're both really good defensively, both top 10 in multiple categories. But Penn State against Boise State, Katron Allen, 17 carries for 134 yards, 8 yards a carry, or 7.9 yards per carry. And then Nick Singleton, 12 carries for 87 yards and a touchdown and 7.3 yards per carry. They're going to run the ball. They're going to want to run the ball. But, yeah, look, I don't think they were great. It could have to be the fact that they were in control for most of the game, kind of, even though it wasn't always on the scoreboard. It never felt like the game was up for grabs for the most part, in my opinion.
I agree with that.
But, yeah, Drew Aller's going to have to make plays, like legit plays against Penn State, against Notre Dame, because Notre Dame's going to sell it for the run because Penn State loves to run the ball. Notre Dame is pretty good at stopping the run in general, but they're also good at stopping the pass. They're good at running the ball. Notre Dame does a lot of things similar to Penn State, right? Notre Dame's second in defensive, they're second in defensive points per game, and they're third in points per game. So Notre Dame has been actually a sneakily good offensive team this year, mainly because of their ground game. But if you're Penn State heading into this game, you're going to have to run the ball. You have to control the line of scrimmage. But then when you talk about Notre Dame, they're going to have to run the ball. They're going to have to control the line of scrimmage, and their quarterback's going to have to make plays. These teams are so similar in Penn State and Notre Dame. I don't like, it's so hard to like one team has an edge somewhere. They really don't. The line tells you that no one really has an edge. It's more of because Notre Dame beat Georgia probably and Penn State beat Boise State where the line probably comes from. But these teams are so similar, and they play such a similar brand of football.
Yeah, I agree with that. Going back to Penn State, like they gave up 412 total yards to Boise, and it's not like that was all garbage time. Like a lot of that was in the first 3 quarters. Offense wasn't super crisp. Something that was weird, and a lot of people were pointing out as it was happening, is that Penn State, they were up 10 at halftime, right? They were throwing the ball a lot early in the second half when they were having good success on the ground. A lot of second and short, third and short, where they were throwing the ball, and it wasn't working well. And it kind of allowed Boise to stay in that game for as long as they did. I thought that was really odd. And you talked about, I think Notre Dame's been more impressive, and I think the reason why is that they've beaten, in my opinion, like two better teams, like a better team in each round. For what it's worth, obviously Georgia didn't have Carson Beck, but they still looked really good. Notre Dame's defense, they just made, it's really that the one strips, they had 4 sacks. All of them were huge. They're going to be huge in this game too, because neither of these offenses are built to be 2nd and 17, 3rd and 13, you know?
Yeah. I agree with you in the fact that Notre Dame has obviously played better in their 2 games than maybe Penn State has played in their 2 games. And look, both teams didn't have a really hard first game based off who they played in SMU and Indiana. And obviously you mentioned Gunnar Stockton playing for Carson Beck. But look, Notre Dame, like I come down to this, and you kind of mentioned it a couple minutes ago. Penn State's going to sell out for the run, right?
Yeah.
And I think Georgia did, and they did not do a great job of containing Ryan Leonard in the ground game. And I think historically, Kirby Smart kind of has not done a good job against mobile quarterbacks. Nick Saban kind of had a similar issue at his time. I have no idea why. Like two of the best defensive minds we have in college football can't contain a running quarterback is mind blowing to me. But Penn State's gonna see that film and be like, got to keep Ryan Leonard in the pocket. Linebackers have to make tackles. Edge rushers, we saw this a lot, Ryan. Edge rushers have to set the edge, because once Ryan Leonard kind of sneaks over the edge, it's a 1-on-1 against a linebacker, and I think Notre Dame's going to take that chance with Ryan Leonard. They're going to run the ball in Notre Dame. But for me, if and I'm not saying this can happen, if Notre Dame gets off script, right? Like they get punched in the mouth early, their run game's not working, Riley Leonard can't really scramble, or Penn State scored a couple touchdowns early, can Riley Leonard make enough plays just sitting back and dropping back while the defense knows he has to pass the ball? That's probably the biggest thing for Notre Dame. The counter to that is most teams can't get him into that situation. Georgia couldn't get him to that situation. Indiana couldn't get them into that situation. The only team that could get them into the situation for somehow is Northern Illinois. I have no idea why, but so it's hard to get him into that situation. But if Notre Dame goes off script, can Riley Leonard make enough plays? That's the biggest issue with Notre Dame.
Yeah, it's totally fair and valid question, but like you said, if Notre Dame doesn't go down, then it doesn't matter. I mean, Riley Leonard had 90 passing yards against Georgia.
Yeah.
They won by 13. It could have been more. Like, special teams, like they've been one of the best special teams since Marcus Freeman has been the head coach. That's something they really put a lot of effort into. Yeah. And you saw a kick return touchdown. That was it. Like, it was 20-3, done. Started third quarter. There is a kind of injury concern for both teams in this game, and that's something that's kind of frustrating with college football and college sports in general, is that you don't get the transparency.
Yeah, you don't get an injury report.
Which, I mean, it is what it is. But like Abdul Carter, he didn't play the whole second half of that first game. Nope. He posted a picture on X of Darth Vader in a back-to-tank from Rogue One. I'm like a Star Wars nerd, so I know what that is. The picture is him like Darth Vader healing up before he puts his suit on.
So he's ready to go.
Penn State fans took that as like he's going to be ready to go. I saw a report that he didn't practice yesterday.
Also, a college kid just wanted to play.
Yeah, he definitely wants to play. I mean, what's today? Today's Monday. There's still a few days for a Thursday game. So you got him, but then you also have Love on Notre Dame who got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Carter would be a bigger miss.
They're already missing Riley Mills. They're already missing him.
Watts got banged up too. I think he's going to play.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big concern.
It's a lot of college games that we've never seen before.
It's a lot of games. Yeah.
No one's ever played this amount of games.
I mean, Penn State's played one more game than Notre Dame.
Penn State's going to their 16th game. Notre Dame's going to their 15th game.
So teams never played a 16th game before.
No, some teams teams are going to play 17 games.
Yeah.
Well,
Actually, no. If it's
unless
Notre
Ohio
Dame,
State
Ohio
and Notre
State,
Dame both win.
But
You
the
get my
game's in Miami, so true neutral site, I'd imagine. I don't think that'll have any impact.
Nope.
Like the blue chip ratio we were talking about just means like the amount of 4- or 5-star guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty even.
Mm-hmm.
Like these are similarly built teams.
They're similarly run programs as well.
Mhm.
Kind of like they stop the run great. They run the ball really well. Like Penn State's 16th in rushing yards a game. Notre Dame's 12th in rushing yards a game. Like they're very similar in that sense.
Yeah.
Notre Dame is 105th in passing yards a game, so they don't really pass the ball efficiently, but that's kind of when we went back to that's not their bread and butter. That's not what they want to do. But if you're really good at a couple other things, special teams, defense, and running the ball, you get away with it, right? And they've gotten away with it in the college football playoffs. I mean,
their passing game's gotten better throughout the season. I mean, Leonard, he's never going to light it up yards wise, but like he threw for 3 touchdowns against Virginia.
The biggest thing for him is if on 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, he can be efficient. Like he doesn't. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't have to throw for 300 yards. If they throw for 300 yards, they're going to win the game by a lot. He doesn't have to. It's just he has to convert on the 3rd and 6 and 3rd and 7 and not turn the ball over, right? And not force the ball. And we saw that a couple of times against Northern Illinois and all that kind of stuff. But if he doesn't get put in that situation, I think Notre Dame wins this game. I really do. That's not giving my pick yet, but I think if he doesn't get put in that situation, this game favors Notre Dame.
Yeah, and you saw it last week. He had a passing touchdown on like a nice play action play. Something else worth noting is that Penn State's coming off like 2 days more rest and prep time than Notre Dame.
Do you factor that in this game? Do you think it's that much of a factor?
For a bunch of 19, 20-year-olds, probably.
For kids that are dealing with injuries, probably. 100%.
It could be for some of Notre Dame's guys. Maybe like, I don't know, from like a coaching prep time perspective. I've never like been in a coaching room like that before. But yeah, the biggest takeaway is that Notre Dame they won that game in 45 seconds. Like the last 30 seconds of the first half and the first 15 seconds of the second half.
100%.
For a team that's not explosive, like passing the ball, that was as explosive as you could get with defense and special teams. And that's what they're going to try to do again. That's what they're going to try to do Ohio State or Texas. They make championship game. Like, now this isn't really pertinent to these players, but like it's interesting. This Final Four, it's 4 historic, huge fan base programs. But outside of Ohio State won the title, 10 years ago? And they made it the COVID year. None of these teams have been in the title in a long time. Notre Dame lost in 2012.
Bama.
The like Manti Te'o Bama year.
Obviously, Texas and Vince Young. Was that the last time they were in it? Or did they make it with Colt McCoy?
They might have made it once. I don't know the last time Penn State played in the national championship game.
We're probably going back to Joe Paterno days. Last time they played in
1987. So like, yeah. So Penn State and Notre Dame, neither have won it since, like, I think Notre Dame won 86, Penn State won 87. So one of these programs, I mean, it's been a long time.
Gonna get a crack at it. What do you like? Because I think we've given the spiel, and both are so similar that like it's kind of hard to find an edge. FanDuel's telling you that with a 1.5 point spread that there's really not an edge.
Yeah.
Penn State, Notre Dame, Ryan, and who covers, obviously based off your score prediction.
So I've picked Notre Dame to win and cover twice. They've won and covered twice. I'm going to pick them for a third time. I like their defense better than Penn State's.
Mm-hmm.
I like Marcus Freeman's like creativity, and their coaching adjustments, I think, have been really good ever since the Northern Illinois game. And I think Riley Leonard will do enough. I think that although Penn State bottled up Genty, Notre Dame's rushing attack is different. It's more of like, a read option, spread you out attack. It's not as one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if both teams continue to play like they've been playing, I think Notre Dame will pull this one out in the Orange Bowl. So I got 24-21. It's probably on the higher end for what people are projecting in terms of the score of this game, but Yeah.
Funny enough, I got the same score prediction of what they have, but we're flipping the teams here.
Yeah.
So for my Orange Bowl prediction, I have Penn State 24, Notre Dame 21. This is a fascinating matchup. I'm on the board that it's a coin flip game. I really do. I think it's a coin flip game, and I kind of talked about that a couple minutes ago. I think Penn State puts Notre Dame in a couple of situations that they haven't been in this year, and I think Penn State's defense puts Ryan Leonard in a couple of situations. They're able to slow down Ryan Leonard just a bit, enough to make him a little bit more of a pocket passer than he has to be. And I do think Penn State's ground game with Allen and Singleton, it could be a little bit too much, but I honestly think this game is probably who has the ball last. You think based kind of Notre Dame might have the ball last. I think Penn State kind of has the ball last. I think it's a field goal game either way. We both agree on that. We just have two different predictions. You have Notre Dame by 3. I have Penn State by 3. And then obviously I have Penn State covering the 1.5. But I think this game is so fun. I think it's so competitive. I don't think any of these two teams get into the 30s. I really don't. I would be shocked if we see a 35-31 game.
The spread's 45.5, or the over-under is 45.5. So we're both like right there.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And I could see it being lower scoring than this. I could see 17-14 like easily.
It's going to be a grinded out game. It's going to be who's the first team that makes a mistake.
Yeah.
Like a special teams, like we saw it in the Georgia game.
Way of putting it. I trust
makes...
Notre Dame to not make the mistake a little more.
Fair enough. And obviously the biggest game of James Franklin's career, and obviously the biggest game of Marcus Freeman's career. And we can keep saying that whoever gets to the final. It's literally, you know what? I'm going to say it right now. Every game going forward is the biggest game for Ryan Day, Steve Sarkisian, Marcus Freeman, and James Franklin of their career.
Yeah.
I don't have to say it again. So we said it. We crossed that path. Even though Ryan Day was in a championship, but it was COVID and they got boat raced.
That was like the best Bama team. Like that was.
They got smoked. They had no chance. Yeah. Drop your comments. Let us know what you guys think. And we're moving on to Ohio State and Texas. This game is at the Cotton Bowl, so Texas has a little bit of home field advantage here, but it's Ohio State. I expect them to travel because it's Ohio State. Ohio State's coming off an absolute, as Josh Pate likes to say, a splattering over Oregon at the Rose Bowl. This game was over before you could even turn the TV on. The final score doesn't even do it justice.
Nope.
Ohio State absolutely boat raced Oregon 41-21. Score does not do it justice, like I just said. And then you had Texas on the flip side, put a really good first half, kind of come down back to earth in the second half, and Arizona State makes this a game, sends it to overtime. Arizona State probably should have won this game. Well, Texas and Quinn Ewers, who we have criticized highly, made some really timely throws, really timely plays, came out with the win, and now we got Ohio State, Texas in the Cotton Bowl. Ohio State right now is a 5.5-point favorite on FanDuel. Ryan, first thing that comes off the board to you in this game.
The first thing that's so funny about this game is these two teams play week 1 next year in Columbus. I don't think most people realize that, which is not relevant for this particular game at all, but it's fun.
That might be a top 5 game next year based off.
Yeah, they play week 1 next year, which is awesome. The first interesting thing, so this game's the Cotton Bowl. It's in Dallas at Jerry Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
There's I don't know if you've been checking the weather.
I know. I saw some people tweet about it.
Snowstorm going through Dallas Thursday, Friday. That could be impacting travel.
Yes, not the actual game, which would be
not the actual game.
I wish the actual game.
So it's
if I saw a college football playoff semifinal game in snow,
it will not be snowing for the game, but that could hinder Ohio State fans' ability to get to the game. What does that matter? I think we can safely say this will be a partisan Texas crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we both will say Texas is going to need all the help they can get. So that's a good first place to start. And that's not to discredit Ohio State fans. They have a great fan base. They'll travel anywhere. It's just logistically going to be way easier for way more Texas fans to be at this game. Getting into it a little bit, I mean, Texas is so weird. Like we said it for the Clemson game.
I wrote a couple games they've done this against. They did it against Vanderbilt. They did it against Arkansas. They did it in the second half against Georgia in the SEC championship game when they were winning in that. Most people forget they were winning that game, and they did it against Arizona State.
First half, they were great. Not even like incredible, but 2 big plays, punt return, and then good defense. Awesome. Great.
They're
Still in
17-3 at half.
control in the third. They're like not dominating. Arizona State's hanging around. And then Ewers has a nice play, 5-6 yard rushing touchdown, good scramble. They're up 16. Great. Now it got weird from there. Like the game got weird. Thank goodness this game was such a good game because it kind of has saved the playoff up to this point. This game being so incredible. Arizona State has like a 4th and 3 down 16, and then Cam Scadaboo throws like a 45-yard touchdown, which great call. Kenny Dillingham, like he's awesome.
Got to spice it
that. But if Cam Scadaboo, because he's a running back, let's say throws that ball 2 yards short, it's broken up. Texas probably wins this game by 17, like 19.
Yeah, we're not talking
field goal. Like they probably win by double digits at this point. But it happened, and then what Texas did after that for the next 7 minutes was terrible. Ewers throws a bad pick. Defense gets marched on again. And they gave up 2 2-point conversions. All you have to do is get 1 2-point conversion, stop. And then Bert Auburn, who's like one of the better college kickers,
misses
2 field goals.
You got a second chance at an easier field goal.
Yeah. I literally fell out of my chair.
Whatever that pep talk Steve Sarkisian gave him was not a good one.
And then Texas was throwing the ball too much, like Penn State, where they should have tried to
get out of their game script. They get like way too weird, and they just get out of. They might not even be able to chance to get in their game script in this game based off of Ohio State's playing, but you can't really do that. You can't have a second half like you did against Arizona State against Ohio State because you and I will be talking about a game that was never a game because you will get run out of the building.
Yeah. Like Sark is known as like the best like drive scripter in college football, and we've seen it.
He's a great offensive mind.
Saw it against Clemson. First drive, march down the field. I mean, their offense was amazing the whole game against Clemson. Arizona State, this game, first drive, 3 plays, touchdown, perfect. The second half, it's just gotten really wonky in a lot of these games. Like
they're afraid to run the ball. They couldn't run the ball.
They didn't run the ball great. No,
that's not good.
We said Arizona State's like their defense was solid and they played hard in the second half.
Texas averaged 1.8 yards per carry. Their running back had 18. Wisner had 18 carries for 45 yards. That is 2.5 yards per carry. Like Ohio State is 4th in rushing yards allowed per game in the country. Like it's hard to run the ball on Ohio State.
Oregon couldn't do it.
Oregon couldn't do it. Like if Texas just gets in a game where they can't run the ball and Ewers just has to drop back, like I don't love that for them. I really don't. I think Ewers has gotten a lot of hate, and he really has. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's an elite quarterback or what he was coming out of high school, what people expected. But I think he can win you a national championship if the right pieces are around him. If they can't run the ball, like this team really needs Bijan Robinson. Like really bad. Bijan Robinson needs to he's not playing in the playoffs, needs to show up on Friday night and play against Ohio State because that's what they need, and they don't have that on their roster. Jonathan Brooks, they need someone like that. They don't have that on their roster, and I think in a game against Ohio State, in a game where Ohio State's defense is the best defense in the country, I think they're flat out the best defense in the country. They have a good secondary. They can get out the quarterback, and they can stop the run. You kind of have to find a way to control the clock, make this possessions game lower, because Oregon could not. Oregon just dropped back, and this Dylan Gabriel was under pressure all night. And I have a bad feeling we could see that again for Quinn Ewers on Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, if you count sack yardage, which they do in college,
I don't know why they
yards. Oregon had negative 23 rushing yards if you count sack yardage, which is crazy. I mean, Gabriel was being harassed the whole game. Like this Peach Bowl ran late, so by the time it went to the Rose Bowl, that game was over. It was 7-0, and Oregon was like punting, and I was like, all right, we got Death Star Ohio State again. This is over. Texas, their offensive line's better than Oregon's. Matthew Golden was really good against Arizona State. He showed up the whole game, the receiver for Texas. He had let me find this. He had 150 yards and a touchdown, 7 receptions.
And had that clutch catch.
They needed him to step up, and he did. Like you were saying to Ewers, he gets a lot of flack. A lot of it's deserved. Like he hasn't been great this year, but he made big plays when he had to. he stood in, he made a good audible, stood in, took pressure, threw a perfect throw to save their season on the 4th and 13. Do another great throw and 2-point conversion, double overtime. Like,
he made throws when he had to.
Throws had to. What was more concerning to me was Texas's defense, because like they've been hailed as a top 5 defense all year. They have all the stats off running, passing. They have good players. They're gonna have a lot of
stats in front of me.
They have NFL draft picks on this defense. Like they made the stop when they had to. They gave up. Where is it? I wrote it down. 500 yards to Arizona State. 500 yards. Like, Arizona State left a lot of points on the board in the first half. It missed field goal. They had a goal line stand, which, like, credit to defense for getting the goal line stand. 510 yards. And it was through the air. It was on the ground. Scadaboo was beating people deep on the sidelines as a power back. Like, someone in that locker room, whether it's Sark, whether it's the defensive coordinator, I don't know who that guy is, has to challenge Texas's defense to play up to their potential against Ohio State, because they're going to have to be playing at their A+ game.
Yeah, I wrote down in my notes, Texas has to play at their A+ game. Quinn Ewers has to play an A+ game. Like that's what has to happen for this to look. On paper, this game looks great. The eye test concerns me a bit with Texas. On paper, blue chip prospects, 4 or 5 stars, talent, coaching. On paper, great. Games are not played on paper. They're played on a field. And when you watch both of these two teams play, both of these teams look like they're going in 2 different directions. Let's talk about Ohio State here, right? We talked about them a little bit, but man, they boat raced Oregon. I wrote down in my notes, Will Howard has to play a B+ game for this team to win. That's where they're at. And we've gotten a couple a little bit better than A+ games. 17 for 26, 319 yards, and 3 touchdowns, a QBR of 97.7. Like, this is the Will Howard they thought they were getting when they got him from Kansas State. Whatever we saw against Michigan, I have no idea what that was. Ohio State goes on and wins the national championship in 2 weeks. We're never going to talk about it. Maybe Michigan fans will. I won't talk about the game again because I don't really care. But I don't know what happened. But they have a 2-headed monster at running back with Junkins and Henderson, and a 2-headed monster at receiver with Ebuka and Jeremiah Smith. And man, a freshman with 7 catches for 187 yards and 2 touchdowns in the Rose Bowl as a freshman, is unbelievable. Can anybody really stop this team right now? Because I don't know if someone can.
I don't know. I mean, I probably said some mean things about Will Howard during our first round.
I think Ohio State fans have said some worse things than you.
So I joked before that the game was over at 7-0. It was really over at 14-0 because the throw Will Howard made for that second touchdown down the seam, where he just dropped that thing in like the perfect spot. The second I saw that, I was like, all right, yeah, like, I'm sorry, Oregon, you're a good team. But Dan Lanning must have just like shrugged the shoulders at that point, because if Will Howard plays like that again, Ohio State will win. And if Will Howard plays like that in the finals, Ohio State will win.
Yeah.
It's probably not sustainable just because like it's been like 100th percentile performance pretty much. Mm-hmm. But that Michigan game has just done like psychological damage on all of us, because it doesn't compute. And the week before the Michigan game, they blew out Indiana. So it was like, all right, yeah, this is the really good Ohio State team that we've been expecting. So if you just ignore the Michigan game, which, I mean, it happens, but like,
they lost to Oregon.
Yeah, this makes sense. They're the best team.
They lost to Oregon because Will Howard didn't slide in time.
Yeah. I mean, they look like the Death Star. What's so interesting is if this game, like if Texas played Ohio State, let's say in the first round, if they were like somehow the 8-9, whatever, just imagine that. Texas would have been like 3, 4, 5-point favorites. The look ahead, like they do like look ahead lines, which aren't in exact science, but like it was like Texas -1 before this last round, which Vegas loves Texas, and the models all love Texas just because of the amount of talent on the roster. But I think part of that is because Ohio State looked so good, and part of that is because Texas looked really bad. Like I've been saying if Notre Dame plays how they have and Penn State plays how they have, Notre Dame will win. If Ohio State plays how they have and Texas played how they would do last week, Ohio State won this game by 4 touchdowns.
Yeah. Yeah. I wrote down Will Howard has to play a B+ game.
Do you think it's possible that Texas was kind of caught in like a look ahead spot last week, which is weird.
Well, could you say that about Penn State as well?
Yep.
Against Boise State? It's just they didn't get to that. The problem is
the 2 double-digit favorites. It makes sense.
Yeah, I get the look ahead, but what concerns me, like if you go to the box and you're not being able to run the ball, like that concerns. Like if you miss a field goal, you miss.
Oh no, it was very concerning.
You throw a pick, it's not great, but like when you couldn't run the ball in a game where if you're looking ahead and you're up double digits, you should still be able to run the ball. Like that should still be able to think. I kind of get to that, and I think they kind of got caught with their pants down almost because they're like we're controlling this game, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, it's tied.
Yeah, I mean,
oh my God, we actually have to start call plays again.
Texas,
Steve Sarkisian needs to not take his foot off the freaking gas for like once. And look, in this game, Ryan, they might not even have a chance to.
I don't think that's going to be an issue.
If they're in that spot again,
you
gotta put your foot on the gas and you gotta just keep going. I think Penn State kind of did that against Boise State, not to the level of what Texas did. No, but I think that is a fair point when you're playing a team where you're better than, you're way more talented than, and then you're on looking ahead to either, they obviously didn't know who won, but you're either playing Oregon or Ohio State, 2 great teams. Like in the semifinals, I could see that. You're college kids. I get that. You shouldn't see that from Steve Sarkisian in coaching.
No.
That's unacceptable. College kids, I get it.
So Texas goes up 14-3 after a punt return touchdown. After that, their drives went punt, field goal, punt, safety, touchdown, interception, missed field goal, until.
Yeah, if they make one of those field goals, it might be a little bit of a different conversation.
Do you think that's another concern? Like, is Bert Auburn's confidence?
Like he said, I don't like Ohio State's kicker either, though.
No,
I don't think
his kicker looked good.
I don't think he can make anything over 46 yards or something. I think like that's as long in the year, Feely.
Yeah, I don't think any of these teams are feeling.
Virginia Tech has a better kicker than all 4 of these teams, and that scares me because someone's going to throw like $1 million at our kicker or something.
I don't think any of these teams are feeling great about their kicking game.
That's insane that Ohio State and Texas and Notre Dame and Penn State can't have a kicker.
I mean, Bert Auburn's been really good. He just got the
it's confidence. It's confidence, right? Like if he's thinking about it and he sees, let's say he misses one early in the game, it could spiral. Might not even come down to a chance where Texas even needs a meaningful field goal.
They absolutely need like the Sark scripted first drive.
Yep. I have a bad feeling I say this when I watch the Bills games, right? When the Bills are playing, and we don't do this like when we play the Patriots or the Jets. I want the ball first. I want to score a touchdown. I want to go up 7-0. Because I know we're better than the teams, and I know they're going to be afraid of us. But if we let our defense on the field and we give up something, like a scripted touchdown, then the Bills' offense has to do a little bit more things. I think Texas needs the ball first. Needs the ball first right away. I think they need to receive the ball and go score a touchdown. Because if they kick the ball off, Ohio State goes down and scores a touchdown, and Texas has a 3-and-out, you probably can turn the game off.
I disagree with you. I mean, I don't disagree with you that like that going outside nothing would be bad. I disagree, and I probably trust my defense more. So I would want my defense.
Okay.
I'm always a defer the kick type of guy. I just like having that.
I like the ball in the second half, but
I'm putting this game in the hands of my defense. I'm challenging my defense. Like, you're not pitching a shutout, right?
No, of course
not.
But
you need to be better than you were against Arizona State. You need to be better than you were against Clemson.
Bend, don't break.
Like, you need to hold them to field goals, attempts. The goal for Texas, I think, should be keep Ohio State under 25.
But you know what Oregon didn't do well against Ohio State? They gave up too many big plays.
Yeah.
You can't give up big plays because if you just keep getting quick played and 50-yard bombs or 50-yard runs by Henderson, you're gonna lose. Like you're gonna have to have a bend, don't break kind of defense and limit possessions.
Yeah. You got I said this to you off air before, but like I trust Texas's roster. I think Texas's roster is like blowout proof. I think it's too good.
Yeah.
But then in college football, there's no such thing. I mean, Oregon's roster's just as good, if not close. I mean, we've seen it in Bama versus Clemson before. Like, so that's that's obviously not true.
It should be blowout.
It should be like.
But I agree. It doesn't
Their
mean
defense is better than Oregon's. Their O-line is better than Oregon's.
Mhm.
Is their offense as a whole?
Is
No.
Dylan Gabriel better than Quinn Ewers?
Yeah, and
I don't
Oregon's
know.
receivers are better. But I think even though Oregon like deserved to be the 1 seed, we talk about them getting an unfavorable draw, to put it nicely, just because they were undefeated. I don't think most people thought that like that's the best team.
Well, Oregon against Penn State, their defense was really concerning. Like that was kind of a concerning performance against Penn State. Their offense was just really good. Their defense kind of showed up again against Ohio State, not being up for the challenge. And that was kind of what did them in. And their offense just kind of got behind the sticks really early, and they couldn't block anybody.
They couldn't block. Like Sawyer was everywhere. Gabriel was getting harassed.
Cody Simon had 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. JT Tuamaloa, I think I got his name right. Who freaking knows? He has 2 sacks and 3 tackles for loss. Sawyer had 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. They had 13 tackles for loss and 8 sacks.
It was frustrating. And there was one part. So I say went up, 34-0? Yeah. And then Oregon scores 2 touchdowns, gets a 2-point conversion. So I think it was 34-15.
34.
And then they got to stop, right? So they scored 2 touchdowns, 34-15. They got to stop. The sideline was like getting hyped. They get the ball back, and then I think it was like incomplete, sack, punted away. Game.
Probably can't punt the ball.
Finally. But like when Oregon had a little momentum, whether it was like false hope or not, they were moving the ball well. They had 2 straight touchdown drives. And then Ohio State's D-line just set the tone again. Texas's offensive line's going to have to bring it. Like their 5 stars, their draft picks are going to have to play like their talent level on the defense, on the line.
And you're going to have to get some sort of running game.
You think Arch? We didn't see Arch at all last game.
I think we're done with Arch.
And you can say that like, oh, they didn't need him, but like,
oh yeah, they probably did. I think
they were losing.
I would bring Arch in to give a different look in the running game.
Yes,
I would. I don't know if I need him passing. I think it's a tough spot to put a kid in. I need a different look running. You cannot have that. Your running back have 2.5 yards per carry against Ohio State. Like that just can't be a thing.
Yeah, and this is a game Texas can't be settling for field goals, whether they're making them or not. And they did score in the red zone last game, but I could see some Arch red zone packages.
Spice it up. How doesn't this feel like we're talking about Ohio State versus like Purdue or Indiana? How we're talking about Texas right now, like what they need to do. We are talking about Texas, who's 13-2, who's the 5 seed in the college football playoff. Like that's what we're talking about right now, and there's 2 reasons behind that. It's how good Ohio State's been the last 2 weeks, and it's what we saw from Texas against Arizona State. That's the issue. That's what they kind of come down to. It's funny because we're talking about like it's Ohio State versus Indiana. It feels like that. It's hilarious to me. But
if Bert Auburn makes that field goal and they win,
probably a different perspective, a little bit of it.
It's still close.
It's still a game where Texas gave it up.
Yeah. All right. Here's the path for Texas. You need like 80% of the home, like it has to be 80% Texas fans, right? Loud, Jerry's World. You have to get a stop to start the game, have a scripted drive touchdown, and then just hope Ohio State a little panic sets in or a little Ryan Day conservative play calling. Like, I don't know. You're right. We're both trying to like come up with ways for Texas to win.
We're a 13-2 Texas team.
13-2 Texas, who's been top 3 all season.
It's crazy.
They've only lost to Georgia. They've still only lost to Georgia. And we're trying to
find a way for them to win. It's like SMU playing Penn State or Boise State playing Penn State or Arizona State playing Texas.
I think it's just this isn't even meant to be a Texas thing. Like they won the game. They didn't bring their A game, but they found a way to win. And that's what good teams do. It's just Ohio State looks like a Death Star right now.
Yeah, if Ohio State plays their A game, I said earlier in the year we did our preview episode. Ohio State is the best roster in the country, and when they play their A game, they're the best team in the country. We just didn't see that against Michigan, and that that was a blessing.
There were some other games.
100%
against Nebraska.
Penn State, they were weird. Will Howard wasn't always electric throughout the year like some other quarterbacks were in college.
But Speaking of Penn State, that was the last game that Ohio State played like a road game. I mean, they played at Northwestern after that, but like,
Oh, you mean like a true road game?
A real road game. Like Rose Bowl was probably 50-50. Like that was kind
That's
of
such a good venue, that Rose Bowl.
so nice.
It's so good. Do you
Um,
before we get to our picks, do you want a Rose Bowl to be the national championship every year?
It's not you can't do it on New Year's. That's the thing. Like the schedule wise, that's not practical. So I know there's been a lot of talk about this. So
I don't need it to be.
Want to do the Rose Bowl, but that's the whole point of the Rose Bowl. It's that it's on New Year's and it kicks off at 2:00 local time and the sun sets at the start of the fourth quarter. Like that is the Rose Bowl. So if you're just going to do it in Pasadena on Saturday, January 21st, I feel like that kind of depreciates the value.
I don't need it to be in a sport that has been everything traditionally has been just taken away, right? Conferences have ruined traditional rivalries. Like it just doesn't. It's not the same as it used to be, right? And there's a lot less tradition. College football is built on tradition, built on rivalries, and it's been taken away because of people love money, and I get it. But conference realignment, all that kind of fun stuff. Rose Bowl is special. It's 2:00 Pacific, 5:00 Eastern. You have the sunset in the fourth quarter. It's on New Year's Day. You can keep it as a quarterfinal or semifinal game, however you want it to be. I don't need it to be a national championship, but I need it to stay a playoff game, though.
Personally, I think they should make national championship in Atlanta every year, just because I think it's like the geographic kind of center of the college football world. It's easy to get to. It's a really nice stadium.
Atlanta this year,
good host city. Like
where's the next year?
And I think it's New Orleans next year.
Okay. Like the worst is when they do like a Vegas or something.
Vegas is coming up.
That's I don't need that. I don't need that.
If you're gonna do I kind of want them to make a tradition of it. So I think Atlanta would just make the most sense.
But no, I don't need the Rose Bowl to be the national championship. I just need it to stay the way it is, and it could be. But it needs to be a playoff game.
Yeah, it will.
I don't want it to be a random bowl game.
Okay, so it's Atlanta this year. It's Miami next year, and then it's Las Vegas 2027, but who knows what that even looks like in terms of format stuff. Oh, and we talk about tradition. Bevo will be at this game after Bevo was banned. Maybe that's why Texas fell apart. They didn't have Bevo to motivate them in the second half.
That was in Atlanta, that game.
True. So if they make the championship, then Bevo will not be at the championship because he's been banned from Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Is Texas thinking about that? Like, even if we win the game, win the national championship without Bevo. So, like, what are we even doing? That being said, Rye, Ohio State's 5.5-point favorites. What do you got? Score prediction, and who you got moving on to face for you, Notre Dame?
So as we talked about, I've picked against Ohio State twice. They have made me look quite foolish both times. I'm not making the same mistake a third time. I'm taking Ohio State 35-28. I don't think it's a blowout. I think they win, and I think we're going to touchdowns, so I think they'll cover, but that line might move to like 7 by game time. Yeah, for all the reasons we said. I mean, even if they come back down to earth a little bit, which I think is like probable, they can still win playing at like 85% of what they've been playing at, you know. This is a big game for both coaches, as we've talked about, just like the other game is. It's hard to imagine the one. You just got to give Ohio State a lot of credit for the 180 they've done. The mental, like I thought they were going to throw in the towel versus Tennessee, and they've done the complete opposite of that. So I'll pick them here. If I happen to jinx them and they lose, don't think I'll be able to live with myself. But
I think they do come back to earth a little bit, but I like Ohio State 31, Texas 21. So I think it's a 10-point game. I think it's a lot closer than I think people want to make it out to be. I do think they cover, but I do think Ohio State maybe takes a quasi step back there. But I think it's a game for the most part. I think Ohio State pulls away at the end. I don't think any rosters blow up proof like you mentioned, because it's college football and just random crap happens in college football. We just saw Oregon just kind of get boat racing. Their rosters quasi blow up proof. But I think Ohio State controls this game. I think Texas doesn't have enough on the ground, and I like Ohio State.
Like I didn't write it down. I'm sure you didn't either. But like, what do you think the halftime score of this game will be? Like, because it was halftime for Oregon was 35-7, right? Or something about that.
17-7.
Okay, that's
Now I'm thinking about that. I'm like, I think they might score more than 17 points. So that's kind of the problem here.
I'll say like 21-14.
Maybe they come out slow, Ohio State, a little.
Texas defense is just going to have to play like they played throughout most of the season.
The problem is against Texas, and people have mentioned this with their defense. In college, defensive stats are always skewed.
They didn't play the best in the
NFL defensive stats at the end of the year are pretty spot on to where they are. Obviously, teams play different schedules, but it's the NFL. It's so competitive. Most defensive stats, if you're the fifth best defense, you're probably either fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, or eighth, right? You're around that possibility. College, I got no idea because every team plays such a different schedule. Every team is in different conferences. Texas played no one for the most part this year. Not their fault, but they didn't play a lot of great teams.
They didn't play any good offenses. They played good defenses like Michigan, A&M, Oklahoma.
Historically, Michigan, A&M, and Oklahoma should put up more points. Like historically, that's kind of a better offensive output. Michigan, not this year. So that's going to do it. Ryan has Notre Dame and Ohio State. I have Penn State, Ohio State, which I just realized will be a Big Ten rematch. No, I don't want that. I don't know what I want. None of us have Notre Dame, Texas, or Penn State, Texas. So it probably end up being that. And Texas will shock the world, and Ryan Day will want to be fired by every Ohio State fan, which would be one crazy turn of event if we talked about that.
That would be a full 360.
Oh my God, that'd be nuts. And college football will burn. Or if Penn State loses this game, James Franklin. Oh boy. Okay, that is going to do it for us. Ryan went Notre Dame and Ohio State. I went Penn State and Ohio State. Let us know in the comment section who you guys got. And as always, follow us on social media at Talking Sports PED on X and on Instagram for all our graphics, all our picks, when we post videos, all that fun stuff. And as always, we are sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Make sure you guys use code TSP for 100% deposit match. Ryan, before we get out of here, anything else you want to say, or have you said enough in the 52 minutes that we talked?
Just hope these are great games for big programs, big fan bases. Like, this is a big spotlight for college football as a sport, and I hope it delivers.
Yeah. Get on Underdog Fantasy. There's a lot of football this weekend. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday with college basketball mixed in. That is going to do it for us. I will be back later this week. I have an NFL wild card preview. It's just going to be me for about 15 to 20 minutes breaking down and giving you guys my picks and preview for all the wild card matchups. So you guys will see that Friday morning. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back Friday. That is going to do it for us. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and thank you